year 2029, a rogue defense network computer called Skynet was facing imminent death at the hands of the humans it had once tried to eradicate with the nuclear fire that humankind later called Judgment Day. Skynet determined that its last, best chance for survival was to use its newly developed time displacement device to dispatch a human-like machine, a T-800 series Terminator, back in time to the year 1984, to the city of Los Angeles, with a mission to assassinate one critical target. Sarah Connor, a mild-mannered waitress who would eventually become the mother of the human who most contributed to Skynet's downfall in the future year of 2029. John Connor. Skynet only had limited information, as Judgment Day had destroyed most of recorded history, and Skynet had run out of better options, at least for now. This Terminator was intercepted by a human resistance fighter who journeyed through time, a man named Kyle Reese. In a timeline-cleaving paradox, this man from the future actually hit it off with Sarah so well that they shared a night of passion, resulting in the birth of a child, a son who Sarah named John, a son who would become the very human destined to crush Skynet after the nuclear war. Skynet had accidentally created its own arch-nemesis. However, it turned out that even in failure, the T-800 had accomplished an essential function. Time travel being a funny thing, the T-800 had chased Sarah and Kyle to the Cyberdyne Systems factory in LA, the very company that would later go on to create Skynet. The resulting battle led to Cyberdyne's research department getting hold of the remains of the cyborg from the future, and, far more importantly, the first attack led to Skynet gleaning one more scrap of information on its arch-enemy, John Connor. Sarah's trauma from the first assassination attempt leads her to embrace the life of a mercenary in South America, fighting illicit wars so that she and John can learn combat tactics. Eventually, however, Sarah puts these skills to use and attempts to blow up a computer company's headquarters. Her effort fails, leading to her arrest and her son's placement in foster care, and, consequently, the creation of a government record that proves capable of surviving Judgment Day intact enough to give Skynet one more window to attack the past in the year 1995. Once again, the human resistance sends a soldier back in time, this time a reprogrammed T-800 stolen from Skynet itself. The results of this struggle lead to Cyberdyne's destruction and another major deviation in timelines, as various other agencies and entities vied to create Skynet. In our case, we're covering Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles timeline, where Sarah remains the protagonist, but there are other timelines and Sarah Connors who may ultimately have other roles we haven't fully learned. The Sarah Connor Chronicles opens in the year 1999, with Sarah and John living more or less off the grid and using fake identities to get by. Haunted by nightmares of her past and of Skynet catching up to her, Sarah decides it's time for her and John to move again, but in doing so, she causes her fiancé Charlie to report her as missing. Not only does this lead to an FBI manhunt for the Connors, but it also leads to Skynet gaining more information in the future, another account of illegal activity, and this gives Skynet another window to assassinate the Connors, as well as giving the Resistance an opportunity to send reinforcements back in time to wage the war in the past. Skynet sends an updated T-888 model, who is later known as Cromartie, while the humans send an unconfirmed model cyborg who chooses the name Cameron. Getting dragged back into the war forces Sarah to confront questions both about her mortality and about John's fate. Cameron advises them to use a secretly developed time machine to jump into the near future. That is, the late 2000s, which is when the show came out. This solution not only gets the Connors away from Cromartie, but it poises them to strike at Skynet's heart just when it's going to be built. Unfortunately for this plan, the war almost immediately catches up with them when another of Skynet's Terminators, this one known as Vic, eliminates most of a group of human resistance fighters who had been assigned to help protect and prepare the groundwork for Sarah and John's struggle. One of the more telling conversations that Sarah has is with Cameron at this point, and she asks why they left a place where they were relatively safe.
Safe. Safe! Was that safe? 3 days and we're at war. Why jump at all? Why not stay in the past? I've had 7 more years to get ready. To get him ready.
No, you wouldn't have.
Why not?
Because you died 2 years ago. December 4th, 2005. You died.
This is in keeping with Terminator 3 and the way she died of also cancer, believe it or not, in that series. We've talked about that in previous episodes. This sets Sarah off into an oft-scary search for answers about her own well-being, in large part because her son John starts off this series by, perhaps quite reasonably, rejecting his destiny as a messiah for humankind. Sarah promises to stop Judgment Day alongside of John, but she can't protect him if she's already dead. And that means trips to the doctor, especially after completing missions that might put her at risk of, say, contamination by nuclear waste. And it turns out she might not be the only one concerned with these sorts of issues.
You're clean.
When we jumped through time, you told me I died of cancer.
Yes, 2005.
Am I still gonna get sick?
I don't know.
Is today how it happens?
I don't know.
What am I supposed to do? Just wait? Like a time bomb? Am I just gonna go off someday?
I don't know. Am I?
When we take into account the three themes of the Terminator franchise, it's clear that Lena Headey's take on Sarah Connor is consistent and effective, and we'd expect nothing less from Cersei Lannister, after all. As viewers of the franchise, we've witnessed every major trauma that Skynet has sent her way. From the Terminator, where a machine from the future tries to murder a waitress for something she hadn't even done yet. Here's looking at you, Rogo's Basilisk. And I do hope you turn out to be kind. To Terminator 2, where she's sexually assaulted in a mental institution before getting caught up in another round of fighting cyborgs. To the Sarah Connor Chronicles, where she's beaten, bruised, assailed, shot, kidnapped, tortured, and otherwise just put through a living hell. To her, however, these things are all just as inevitable as Judgment Day is. And if it means she can change John's fate to protect him, she's willing to go through with it. If you want to talk about the effects of trauma in a character, Sarah's your gal. One situation that best exemplifies Sarah's grit and determination occurred after she'd been shot by a security guard employed by a Skynet-adjacent company she had been investigating, an investigation which itself only succeeded after long hours of trial, error, and complications. Despite the doubts that her own teammates had about her perception of reality, she was on death's door. Things were so bad that she was, as in Terminator 2, hallucinating that Kyle Reese is helping her through the situation. Whether you believe that divinity plays some kind of role in this series, or whether you think she's just letting her subconscious survival instincts take over, Reese's guidance is key to getting her through this nightmare. Unable to get to a hospital, she kidnaps a doctor to operate on her in a hotel room. Once threats fail to accomplish much, Sarah realizes that her tourist companion also has a history of dealing with abusive elements in her life. Before long, she's found a way to tell a sliver of her true story of living on the run in fear. With this bond, Sarah is able to convince the doctor to operate on her, saving her life. When all is said and done, she confirms that parts of her story were true, helps the doctor take her fate into her own hands, and break her own cycle of trauma, and then departs to continue her mission to break the future and stop Skynet from emerging, to at least stop Judgment Day from occurring, even though inevitably she has to wrestle with Cameron's prediction that she will contract cancer somehow and perhaps not live long enough to see the end of the war. It is a temporary reprieve to allow her to keep fighting. The Sarah Connor of these particular chronicles is a juggernaut who puts her son's survival and the survival of humanity in general ahead of her own well-being. She knows she is limited in her abilities, but she works within them as best she can. Even though she is all too capable of very human failures, she trains diligently to prevent herself from making the same mistakes twice. By the end of the show, Sarah is prepared to go to any measure imaginable to stop Judgment Day. But whether or not this is even possible is never decided, given that the show is cancelled before a resolution to her chronicles could be concluded. Until Josh Friedman can be convinced to give up his secrets, we won't know if her fate, at least in this timeline, is benign or dark. With Terminator Dark Fate coming out in just a few days on November 1st, 2019, and in adherence with the mission to avoid spoilers, I honestly have no idea how Dark Fate will work with, upend, or just plain tweak the Terminator mythology. However, if you peek at the little red box in the poster on your left, you'll notice that the Chronicles lead writer, Josh Friedman, did help write this movie. Whether or not any of his old ideas bled into the new movie remains to be seen. But I, for one, know that there is no fate but what we make for ourselves. Let's see what this dark fate they made for Sarah is. It's rated R again, after all. But can it really be worse than when she was trapped in Pescadero? We'll see. Hi there. My name is Jesse Pullman, and I'm the creator and host of Dystopian Review, the place where we dream of nightmare worlds. I really hope you've enjoyed this look at the Sarah Connor from the Sarah Connor Chronicles. If you're interested in picking up the show, please don't hesitate. You can probably find it wherever streaming is done. And if you're still on the fence, don't hesitate to look back at one of my videos about either Terminator as a whole, or how the Chronicles really hit on the themes we touched on a little bit in this video. I think that would maybe serve as a great selling point to really get you engaged. So I'm still planning to talk about the timelines of the Sarah Connor Chronicles, and especially talk about how Skynet and the Resistance wound up using time travel as a weapon. And I look forward to talking about Dark Fate when that comes out in a couple days. I'm not even lying. I got a story to go with it too. You'll hear. But at least for a while after that, I'm probably going to step away from the Terminator franchise for a bit and explore other dystopian literature, film, and whatever else. And if you've got a suggestion, please feel free to leave it in the comments. Worst case, I don't see it. Best case, I don't see it because there's so many suggestions, right? I mean, maybe people have already made yours. Or maybe I'll see it, and maybe it'll be the best idea ever. Meanwhile, if you want to see more dystopian review, or just really enjoy any of my science fiction creations in general, then might I recommend for you to stop by my Patreon page, link in the description and up above, one of these sides, right? And consider pledging your support. In November 2019, I'm planning on participating in National Novel Writing Month, also known as NaNo, this thing over here. I'll get these sides right one at a time. And I'm really looking forward to it because I haven't done NaNo in a while. I didn't even succeed in 2016 when I tried that. And this is going to be something different, so I'm really looking forward to getting to play in a lot of different sandboxes with this. So if you're interested, if you want to show your support, if you've got the means to spare, by all means, please hit me up on Patreon. Let me know what you think. There's all sorts of rewards, and you get to see more of this because the more time I can dedicate towards creating these kind of projects, the I'm breaking the flow of space and time here, but after I recorded the last bit last night, I found out that not only was my novel Physics Incarnate nominated for, but as of tonight, it actually won the honor of being the Indie Book Club Book of the Month. So I really just have to add this, and I want to thank Stats, I want to thank Norma, I want to thank everyone who's involved. It's a real, it's the kind of thing that you come home to and you're just like, wow. If there's anything I need to do to help out, if there's anything I can do to help out, please let me know. I hope all my viewers will take a minute and join in. It's a real trip. Please feel free to ask questions. Other than that, though, I'm going to leave it here, except to say wow. And as always on this channel, keep dreaming of nightmare worlds so that maybe the real one that we all live in can be a little bit better. Take care of yourselves and each other. Be safe.
We'll see.